Hi, my name is Anudea Nikolarakis, and people call me Ani. I'm the Director of Artistic Sign Language for the production of For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow is Enough.
Hi, my name is Garlia Cornelia Jones. I'm the line producer on For Colored Girls, and I also had the honor of writing the dramaturgy page in the playbill.
So my first question for you, Garlia, is I know that this play is referred to as a choreo poem. So can you explain what that is?
Choreo Poem was something that Ntozake was inspired to create based on her love of poetry and music and dance. It's a genre that really pulled from a lot from her the colleagues that she had at the time, and it incorporates these three elements into one piece, or into a type of theater.
I agree, because when I got the script and read through it, I thought the language, that poetic language, was so different for each character, and that sometimes it was a little more abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't the same type of poetry for each character. And you know, it makes me think that it's so natural for American Sign Language,
Mm-hmm.
because when we sign, how we are moving in the air is very visual. It creates a movement. And so to add that, you know, Alexandria Wales, who was cast to be the lady in purple, is also a beautiful dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think how she has interpreted everything into her body, how she moves. And I think for maybe people that are hearing the words and watching her move on stage, I think they are looking at it through one dimension. But I think the deaf audience who is not hearing the words, they are seeing the words through her sign as well as her body.
Yeah.
So I think it's deeply layered for them, where hearing people might just be looking at it, thinking of it as only movement.
Mm-hmm.
But we are seeing the signs, the words, how she interprets Ntozake's lines into making sense to us, as well as bringing her physicalization, her movements in her bodies. It makes it so rich.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when I think of choreo poem, that's what the concept means to me.
Yeah. Sashida is one of the pieces that I think really exemplifies both a choreo poem and the way that ASL was incorporated into the choreo poem. It is dramatic. We've got the vibration of music, which we as hearing people also experience. So you and we feel so much from every single movement, every single sign that comes from Alexandria, that embodies her as she embodies that character. It's exquisite. What was the process of incorporating ASL into the production of For Colored Girls?
It was such an interesting experience. At first, I jumped in by meeting the creative team. They had a musical director, they had a composer, there was a choreographer, the director, and we all had to work together and figure out how was ASL, American Sign Language, going to be a part of that. Camille, our choreographer, really wanted to work with me in the dance movement, in the physical vocabulary she was using on stage, to also include elements of sign language so that that could become part of the dance movement. So she also wanted to honor artistic sign language, not make it just good enough, but really wanted to honor language as part of the vocabulary. And for Camille to recognize that and make conscious decisions that she and I would talk about and agree that made a much more effective choice than just some kind of superficial choice. We wanted to find moments to really emphasize the sign in the dance movement so that the deaf audience would feel that recognition and that honor on stage as well. Everybody in the production was always willing and open and wanted to develop their characters in terms of how they relate to the lady in purple, who is Alexandria. And we wanted to make sure it was not just an afterthought added on later, but it was really integral and authentic to the whole experience.
Mm-hmm. So something you said made me think about and want to know what narratives for you and for colored girls have evoked the most feelings as a one woman of color.
Again, I think it's a great question. I would say that when I was reading it, all the narratives, I felt like I had friends who had been through some of those. But for me, the two most powerful emotional responses I had were, one was to the lady in Brown's Toussaint story, and the lady in green, someone almost walked off with all of my stuff. The Toussaint narrative, I felt such a connection with because as a kid, I loved reading. It was an escape for me. I could see how her character felt that kind of liberated experience of her mind, you know, when she was telling her story. Because as a deaf woman of color, language access was hard. Sometimes my whole family was hearing, and I would have deaf friends, but when I was in that world with my family, I didn't understand everything, so my escape was literature, was reading, and I could be in a world that I understood, and it gave me life. And so wherever I lived, whether it was poor or whatever, I could be transported to another time, another country. And so for me, when I see the lady in brown on stage, I have such an emotional response to that memory. And then, Lady in Green, I have a very personal experiences. I've given so much of myself, you know, who I am, that I lose myself in the process. And so, having to start to claim it back, like Lady in Green says, give me my stuff, give me my things back. So for me, it really was a powerful emotional trigger. And when I hear that and I see it, I have this big my emotional experience inside is exactly how I feel. And I see myself then represented on stage. I hope that everyone comes in with an open mind and an open heart. Because as they're watching the different experiences, they might find some that they relate to and understand, but there might be some that they don't get. But I hope that they understand that that's okay. Those are other people's truths. And watch and honor that as well. So that's my hope when people come in to see the show. And when they leave the show, you know, there's a variety of different audiences. They can be men, women, people of color, or not. So there are so many different experiences that one brings, and I hope they find themselves in the show in some way. And I hope they find something positive in the show that they really can relate to, but there also might be some things that are not so positive. They may realize that they're a perpetuator of violence, that maybe they did something that that they think about was their fault, or they might see themselves represented at times in that way. So I hope people are open-minded enough to recognize something like that and think about it, and maybe think about a change of actions in the future. And it could be a change for the better. So that's what I hope everybody leaves with.
Mm.